I'm joined now by Sourabh Gupta. He is an international relations policy specialist at the Institute for China-America Studies. A big meeting, Chinese Foreign Minister meeting with Rex Tillerson. Of course, also Wang Yi kind of setting out his kind of vision of what should happen with the DPRK. Again, China emphasizing diplomatic efforts, six-party talks. This seems like something they've been shouting for a long, long time. Didn't really go anywhere with the Obama administration. We know that Donald Trump's the art of the deal, wants to be a deal maker. He said he'd have a hamburger with Kim Jong-un. Do you think those talks can actually get going?
I think there is a potential for those talks to get going. Part of the reason they did not get going the last time around in the Obama administration is because President Obama had this mantra of leading from behind. And so he was just following what the South Koreans were doing. And the South Koreans have had two hardline conservative government which did not want to do that sort of outreach. There's a very strong chance that the next president of South Korea will come from the center left who wants to have an opportunity for a dialogue with the North Koreans. And so it can create the grounds for President Trump, if he is willing to explore the negotiation process too.
I was over in Hangzhou for the G-20 there, but I know you were interviewed by Elaine Reyes talking about this interesting dynamic, the President Obama and President Xi managing rather gracefully their differences. Do you see Tillerson and Trump kind of picking up that mantle and going in the same direction, or will there be bumpy patches along the way? I mean, there's been so many kind of missteps early on with the one China policy, some of the other things from the U.S. president. How do you view things?
I would say I have some degree of cautious optimism. Obviously, everything has been steeped in pessimism so far, but there's cautious optimism, and let me explain why. This is, Donald Trump had harsh things to say against Japan, but when he met Prime Minister Abe just last week, he tried to find common ground on a lot of the issues. Of course, President Abe is an ally of the United States. But what I have noticed that starting January, President Trump has been very circumspect in what he says with regard to China. He understands that this is an important relationship, and he has dialed back on some of the harsh things he had said. And even Secretary Tillerson has dialed back on some of those things which he said with regard to the South China Sea. So I can see that they view China as being a very important interlocutor, and perhaps this could create the basis for them to have more constructive conversations.
Do you think Tillerson's first foray out there is a positive step in the sense that he's saying that this is going to be a listening tour, that he really wants to hear from other leaders? He sat down with Sergei Lavrov. Lavrov was kind of surprised because they shoot all the reporters out of the room. He's not talking to reporters. He's not having any press conferences or anything. He's just kind of testing the waters, I suspect. It's
testing the waters. Also, he is still fairly new in the position. He doesn't have much of the support staff that he will have once the administration's wheels really get moving. So from that perspective, I think it's better that he is cautious in his pronouncements, and if there are less, they are better. But it's a good thing that the Germans organized this G-20 foreign ministers meeting at this particular time. It allows Tillerson to meet a vast range of important interlocutors and get to understand the sentiment of how they view the administration. And it's been reassuring to see that Tillerson has taken up that role responsibly.
There was a piece in the Washington Post today with Senate Majority Mitch McConnell basically saying there are two Trumps. Pay attention to what he does, don't pay attention to all of his tweets. But I imagine if you're a foreign leader, that's not comforting. I mean, they really can't kind of gauge where this president's going, and it seems like on a daily basis it can change. What can Tillerson tell these other leaders, these diplomats, to kind of reassure them?
I think the best reassurance that he could perhaps give in his capacity is wait till you meet President Trump in person and engage him in person and get to hear what his views are. President Trump, candidate Trump, has been tweeting for a long time around, and that is not going to end anytime soon. So perhaps it's best not to get too distracted by those tweets of his. Do it on the basis of face-to-face interaction and on the basis of actual policies laid out.
Let me ask one final question. Washington, D.C. and Beijing, under the Obama administration, they really came together on climate change. And it seems as though Trump is going in a different direction there. Where do you see areas of agreement for China and the U.S. moving forward?
Are you talking in terms of climate change or in other areas?
Or in other areas, yeah.
There's so many hotspots in Asia, and I think there are areas where they can actually have a meeting of minds in trying to deal with some of those issues, starting with North Korea, where they come in from different angles, even on issues like on the One China policy or on the South China Sea. They have their own differences, but their differences are not so vast that they cannot minimize them and have a basis on which they cooperate. But on climate change, it's just hard to tell and early to tell. And at this point of time, what Mr. Trump and his team have been saying is fairly disheartening. So it's hard to say really down the line, but we perhaps just be cautiously optimistic in this at this time, and we are also steeped in pessimism about matters.
The two words we keep hearing from you: cautious optimism. Thanks so much, Sourabh Gupta. Always a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.